Hi, everyone. We're talking today about advanced driver assistance systems in modern cars. We're talking with Greg Nichols here. Specifically, Greg, I think a good question to start with is, are the cars getting safer because of these assistance systems?
Yeah, you sure would think so, right? That's the entire point of these. And advanced driver assistance systems are becoming the norm even on mid-level cars. They're really pervasive at this point. And for safety advocates, that seems like it's good news. The systems are designed to prevent crashes, and they should, after all, prevent crashes and help us drive more safely, drive safer. But what if that thinking is flawed? That's the question posed by a new report from AAA, which suggests that it might not be the case that these are actually making driving safer, these systems, and that our increasing reliance on and use of these driver assistance systems, like lane assist, for example, that keeps you in the center of the lane, they may actually be resulting in higher rates of distracted driving.
Yeah, so obviously not what would be the intended meaning behind the systems, Greg. Well, in terms of the report that you cite here in the article, what did the report actually set out to measure?
Yeah, the point of advanced driver assistance systems is to increase traffic safety and driving comfort for drivers and passengers. But it's important to remember that this is automation at a very intermediate level. This is not full L4 automation, right? And what that means is there's still this huge safety burden on the driver to maintain control of the vehicle and to maintain that situational awareness that's so critical to driving safely. The AAA report set out to determine whether these advanced safety systems actually resulted in drivers allowing themselves to become distracted at a higher rate. So to get the results, to put together this report, AAA teamed up with the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute, which used data from two previous driving studies. And data from one of these studies indicates that the simultaneous use of advanced driver assistance systems was associated with a 50% increase in the odds of engaging in any form of kind of secondary task while a driver was driving, and an 80% increase in the odds of engaging in visual or manual secondary tasks like texting compared to the same drivers who were not using the automated system, which is really stunning and really stark, especially because we know that with these kind of low-level autonomy systems, you really do have to maintain control and presence of mind. In the other study that was used to put together this report, speeding-related errors were present 19% of the time when driver assistance systems were in use, which is a much higher rate than when driver assistance systems were available to drivers but were turned off. In the same study, drowsy driving was present more often when driver assistance systems were active, which was still a low percentage, 5.4% of the time versus 3.4% when no system was active. But that's a measurable and significant result. And it indicates a possible detrimental effect of automation in association with kind of driver alertness, which again is just so critical to driver safety and not what you would expect with all of these safety systems.
Yeah, no doubt, Greg. It definitely seems the opposite. So, what do you think? What does it all mean, in terms of the results, the implications that will come from this?
Yeah, that's a good question. There was some variance in the data. So the AAA report, remember, was taken from two existing data sets. And at times, the results seem to be at odds with one another, which is really interesting. And that kind of gives investigators some clues that something might be going on. So with one data set, the suggestion was that there was a stronger correlation between the use of driver assistance systems and distracted driving. And that wasn't necessarily consistently the case with the other data set. So if we're trying to extract meaning, it's always a little bit of a shot in the dark, and we're, of course, speculating. But the variance is meaningful. And one of the data sets we know was collected when these semi-autonomous systems were still quite new and novel in cars, meaning most of the study group that was surveyed hadn't had much previous exposure. So distracted driving among this group was typically lower than when the autonomous systems were in use. And the reason why we think is that it was still kind of this novel thing. And when something's novel, you don't necessarily trust it fully. So you kind of tend to pay more attention. So this other data set seemed to indicate, though, that distracted driving increased with the use of these systems. And the answer there may lie in that the group that was surveyed here had pre-existing exposure to the technology. They knew and they already trusted the technology. So in the second data set, because they were more familiar with lane assist, for example, other driver assistance technologies, because the systems were no longer novel, attention seemed to wane a lot more. And the implication is that over time, these safety systems really can erode our attention to driving. And that's super dangerous, of course, because it could indicate that we're becoming less conscientious behind the wheel as these technologies come online and become more pervasive, and that we are actually being kept less safe over time. So the takeaway, I think, here is no matter how smart your car is, it always pays to pay attention.
That's right. We still have to be smarter. All right, Greg, thank you so much. And if you want to learn more about Greg's article and that survey there, make sure you check out ZDNet. Thanks for watching.